is one of those things. Paper staying on topic is something that we see as we're moving along. And you're going to be reading, hopefully you'll get through all of the paper that you're reading, but you might just get through a big portion of it. What I really like to ask you to think about is, does the paper deliver what it promises in the thesis? In many of your writing conferences, we tested the thesis where we said, okay, this was your thesis. You talked about this, this, and this. Did you talk about this in paragraph 1? Did you talk about this somewhere in another paragraph? So what we really want to know is, does the body paragraphs, the evidence, does it do for us what the thesis told us it was going to do? And we're going to do that as we read. We're looking for that. That's something, put yourself a little star. As a reader, you want to be looking for that. Does each body paragraph match up or somehow connect to that thesis? And that connection might be, sometimes it's a transitory paragraph, it might not be an evidentiary paragraph, but it serves to move the paper forward along the lines of that thesis. Okay, does the paper generate a new perspective that demonstrates synthesis, not summary? There's actually a couple things going on here. One of them, our first one, is the key, not summary. One of the things that we want to make sure our papers are doing is that they are making an argument where you as the writer are putting your interpretation out there for us to understand your evidence. If your paper is just summarizing what other people have said, like it says Barron says this, Turkle says this, Barron says this also, but he disagrees with Turkle, you might just be talking about the summary of what's in the other evidence pieces that you use. So our goal here is to get beyond just the summary part. So we've got generate a new perspective. And that generating a new perspective, for some of you, it might be that you're looking at something really new and interesting. Like it might truly be a very new perspective because it's so new we don't even know it's out there. Or you just came, or you're genius. Some of you might have some genius papers kind of going on. And I think there's some out there. I've seen some interesting talks. Okay, and some of you might be just generating a new perspective through the synthesis of the evidence you're providing. Like you might be talking about something everybody's been saying something for years about. So both Jeremy and Amanda are looking at education and technology. People have been arguing about it for a long time, but you might be generating a new perspective based on the types of work you've brought together and the way you're synthesizing it, the way you are creating a new argument with different sources. Okay, so think about, there's like 3 things going on here about how your paper can be kind of new and interesting and exciting and demonstrate some kind of risk-taking and show your own argument. One is it might be doing something just really new, truly new. It might be doing something new in relation to how you're putting it together. It's like everybody's made ice cream, or there's lots of ice cream flavors out there already. We're going to ice cream. But maybe the way you put the ice cream ingredients together is new, right? So it's new based on synthesis, but it's not totally new because we've already had ice cream before. Now, the person who made ice cream the very first time, he had the whole new ice cream invention, right? So see it as levels, okay? But your key thing is we're also going to be watching for summary. When you read your classmates' papers, one of the things you're going to be watching for is, oh, this is summarizing still. Is this summarizing, or are we getting to the argument? Okay. So overall, right, what we want to know here is we want to know if the topic is appropriate. Does the thesis clearly convey what the paper is going to do? Is it interesting? Does it stay on topic? And does the paper actually do what it says it's going to do in the thesis? So that's the big issue stuff for argument. Now, textual evidence, that's our other one down here, okay, which we want to look at. First, we want to know, is the evidence appropriate? Does it meet the assignment requirements for type and numbers? What are the requirements? How many sources do we need for this paper? 8? Okay. So you need 8 total. What kinds do you need? Okay, at least 4 have to be scholarly. So on your paper, go to your Works Cited page right now. And I want you to count up how many sources do you have and put the number at the bottom of your paper just to give the reader a shortcut. Some of you may have 25 million already because you're way ahead, because you're like researching themes. Okay. Next to that number, I also want you to go through your list of works cited, and I want you to put a little star next to the ones that are scholarly to mark them as more credible. And then put a little slash so that you have something like 8/4, 10/3, to let the reader know right now at this point of your draft process how many scholarly sources you have. Yeah, Natasha? Yep. So first count how many sources you have in your bibliography. Put the number at the bottom of your paper, on your own paper for the reader. Then next to it, put a slash, kind of like I did here, and mark how many of those are scholarly. Go through your list and put stars next to the ones that are scholarly. So when someone's reading it, they can kind of refer to it. You're going to help out your reader. This is also your chance to notice what you need to do to fill in the gaps if you don't have enough sources yet, or you don't have enough scholarly sources. It also might be that someone reads it, looks at your bibliography, and goes, "This doesn't look scholarly, dude," but you got a star next to it. Are you sure it's scholarly? You might have a discussion about that too. Does anybody have any questionable sources they wanted to ask about at this point? You're not sure if it counts as scholarly? Heather?
I have an article from the BBC, News Online.
So the BBC, News Online, it's not a scholarly peer-reviewed source. It'd be considered in the middle. It's not, Joe Blow's website, and it's not like a 6th grade student's project that's online. The BBC is considered more of like a governmental, kind of like PBS would be. So it's not a consumer-based company, so it's going to be a little higher in credibility, but it's still a news source, and it's still a company. It's not a scholarly source.
I just get confused whenever I do EasyBib.
Pop
up BBC is a credible source.
Well, credible, but the key is what we talk about. What I want you to be thinking about is that there's a whole like a spectrum of what's credible and what makes it credible, which is why in the annotated bibliographies I asked you to think about why it was credible. And so, in some of them you just wrote article, and I'd be like, do you think this is scholarly? Like, why do you trust it? Because in some cases there is stuff like I would trust the BBC over, the Dallas Morning News. As far as sources go in the news hierarchy, but I would trust a research report that was put out by even like the Pew Charitable Trust Internet Search Study. They're a nonprofit government organization. I trust that above that, but I'd actually trust a scholar whose paper had to go through this blind peer review process even more. And academics trust other academic peer-reviewed sources as the highest level. Okay, and that includes academic books, because they go through a really rigorous vetting process by other experts. So business stuff goes through other business people. So it's still trade, and it's still considered valuable. It's just who's your audience. I saw other hands up here. Teresa?
Anything like with a PDF or like an author, do we just how would you know if that PDF file is like scholarly or not?
Did you say PDF or Wikipedia? Did you say
PDF?
Oh, PDF. I thought you said Wikipedia at first. So if there's a PDF, you mean you got to somebody's website and there's a PDF there? Mm-hmm. Is that what you mean?
Or like not a website, but like it says this is the link to the PDF file. I guess like the written text.
But where did it come from? The question is where it came from. So if you're getting full text from the database around a scholarly journal, then it's. What's that? If you do what?
If you click peer reviewed, it's on.
Yeah, if you, right, in your search, if your search criteria, you can actually filter for peer-reviewed journals. Okay. But if you didn't, you can always just go back to Google that journal, the title of the journal, and go read about the journal. And it'll tell you somewhere in the information about it whether it's a peer-reviewed journal. Okay, so you can look at the journal, the source itself.
So I referenced like a video from a website, CBS News.
Mm-hmm.
So I can would I cite I'd cite the website, right, as a reference to CBS News?
So I'm not going to answer that right now in this because that's a specific question of that kind of source. We can look that up later, but the key is That's looking up a news source, and it depends on whether it's a video on the news source or whether it was on the website. It's something we should work out together. It's not.
Okay.
We're getting into little details now. Yeah.
I had one from Stanford Encyclopedia.
Uh-huh.
Is that a scholarly?
So what do you think? Stanford Encyclopedia. What's your thought on that? It's a tricky one, right? It's from Stanford, right, which is a really prestigious university. It's an encyclopedia, so encyclopedias are good reference manuals, yeah? But keep in mind that it's an encyclopedia, and which means an encyclopedia is good in as far as it's just providing you kind of some background on something, kind of like a dictionary. It's not a scholarly source. It's not when your instructors say they want you to have 4 scholarly sources, 4 scholarly peer-reviewed sources, they mean the same, peer-reviewed and scholarly. And what they mean a book that went through like a university publishing house or a journal article that's substantial. So some of your articles in your annotated bibliographies, I might have wrote something, I might have circled the page numbers and went, this is only 1 or 2 pages, which means it's probably not it's not a research